Ghostly tales, yet mirrors of human life. Hey everyone! Welcome to Encountering Chinese. Ghostly Tales from Liao Zhai. Today, I'm going to tell you a story called Daughter of Magistrate Liu. In Zhaoyuan County, Shandong Province, there was a man named Zhang Yudan, known for his unrestrained and bold nature. At that time, Zhang Yudan chose to live in a temple for a quiet environment to focus on his studies. The local magistrate of Zhaoyuan County, Magistrate Liu, was from the Sanhan and had a daughter who loved hunting. One day, Zhang Yudan encountered Magistrate Liu's daughter in the wilderness and was captivated by her exquisite beauty. She wore a satin marten fur coat and rode a small black horse, presenting an elegant demeanor as if stepping out of a painting. Later, when Zhang Yudan returned to the temple, he couldn't help but admire the grace and charm of Magistrate Liu's daughter. Soon after, he heard the news of the sudden illness and death of Magistrate Liu's daughter, which left him heartbroken. Due to the long distance from home, Magistrate Liu temporarily placed his daughter's coffin in a temple. Coincidentally, the coffin was placed in the very temple where Zhang Yudan studied. Deeply admiring Magistrate Liu's daughter as if she were a deity, Zhang Yudan prayed and made offerings every day. He would light incense in the morning and perform rituals before meals, expressing his sorrow. Zhang Yudan often poured wine on the ground and prayed. Although I was fortunate enough to catch a glimpse of Miss Liu's beauty, I often see you in my dreams. Unexpectedly, a beauty like you would suddenly pass away. Today, although we are physically close, the separation between us is like a vast expanse of water and mountains. The pain in my heart is truly unbearable. When you were alive, we adhered to propriety and formalities. Now that you have passed away, there should be no taboos between us. If your soul is beneath the netherworld, you should come to me and comfort my deep affection. Zhang Yudan prayed day and night for almost half a month. One night, while Zhang Yudan was reading under the lamplight, he was astonished to see Miss Liu standing there with a smile. Overjoyed, Zhang Yudan hastily stood up to pay his respects, and Miss Liu said to him, "Grateful for your deep affection, I cannot restrain myself any longer. Now, I can no longer worry about the suspicion of eloping." Zhang Yudan was delighted, and from that day onward, Miss Liu would visit every night, and they lived together affectionately like a married couple. One day, Miss Liu said to Zhang Yudan, "In my lifetime, I enjoyed horseback riding and hunting, considering it a joyful activity. However, due to taking too many lives, my sins accumulated, and my soul cannot find peace after death. If you sincerely love me, please recite the Diamond Sutra 5,000 times. This way, I will not forget your kindness in this life and beyond." Zhang Yudan wholeheartedly followed her request, reciting the sutra every night by the coffin. Once, during a festival, Zhang Yudan wanted Miss Liu to return home with him. Concerned about her weak legs, she agreed to be carried by him. Zhang Yudan, holding Miss Lu, found her weight to be as light as a baby, making him feel no fatigue. This became a regular occurrence, and he even brought Miss Lu along when participating in exams. However, as Miss Lu was a ghost and couldn't be exposed to sunlight during the day, Zhang Yudan could only travel at night. Eventually, when Zhang Yudan was about to participate in the autumn township exam, Miss Lu told him, "Your blessings are not deep, going to the exam is a waste of effort." Hearing her words, Zhang Yudan decided not to take the exam. After another 4 or 5 years, Magistrate Lu retired, but due to poverty, he couldn't afford to transport his daughter's coffin back to their hometown. He planned to bury his daughter's remains locally but was troubled by not finding a suitable burial site. Zhang Yudan went to Magistrate Lu and said, "My home is not far from the temple, and I have a piece of thin farmland. I am willing to offer it for the burial of your daughter." Magistrate Lu naturally felt delighted. Zhang Yudan wholeheartedly assisted Magistrate Lu in burying his daughter's coffin, earning Magistrate Lu's profound gratitude, though he remained unaware of Zhang Yudan's true motives. After Magistrate Lu left, Zhang Yudan and Miss Lu continued their intimate relationship as before. One night, as Miss Lu leaned against Zhang Yudan's chest, tears the size of beans rolled down her cheeks. She said to Zhang Yudan, "Our 5 years of love will end today. I will never be able to repay your kindness and love in several lifetimes." Zhang Yudan asked in astonishment what was happening, and Miss Lu replied, "Thanks to your great kindness to me, a person under the netherworld, and helping me recite a full set of scriptures. Today, I am going to be reincarnated into the Lu family in Hebei. If you remember this day, after 15 years on the 16th day of the 8th month, please come find me at the Lu family." Zhang Yudan, with tears in his eyes, said, "I am already in my 30s now. In another 15 years, I will be old, and even if I meet you, what difference will it make?" Miss Lu replied, "By then, I am willing to be your servant to repay your kindness." After a while, Miss Lu added, "Please accompany me for another 6 or 7 miles. The road ahead is full of thorns, and my dress is too long, making it difficult to pass." She then hugged Zhang Yudan's neck, and he carried her to the side of a road. They saw a convoy of carriages and horses parked by the roadside, some ridden by 1 or 2 people, and others carrying 3 or 4 people or even more. Only one carriage, adorned with gold and silver and draped with embroidered curtains, had an old lady sitting alone. When she saw Miss Lu, she shouted to her, "Get on the carriage?" Miss Lu answered, "Yes." So, Miss Lu turned back to Zhang Yudan and said, "Just drop me off here. You can go back, but don't forget what I said." Zhang Yudan agreed, and Miss Lu approached the carriage. The old lady pulled her aboard, and the wheels started turning. The remaining carriages all clattered away together. Feeling melancholy, Zhang Yudan returned home. He marked the days of separation from Miss Lu on the wall. He believed that Miss Lu could reincarnate into a wealthy family because of his recitation of Buddhist scriptures, so he became even more devout in his practice. One day, Zhang Yudan dreamed of a divine being who told him, "Your aspiration is commendable, but you need to make a trip to the Southern Sea." He asked the divine being, "How far is the Southern Sea?" The divine being replied, "The Southern Sea is within your reach." Upon waking, Zhang Yudan understood the meaning of the divine being and devoted himself to reciting Buddhist scriptures, focusing on spiritual cultivation. 3 years later, Zhang Yudan's second son, Zhang Ming, and eldest son, Zhang Zhang, both achieved success in the imperial examinations. Although Zhang Yudan's family suddenly became wealthy and prestigious, he remained dedicated to doing good deeds without slackening. One night, he dreamed of a person in green clothing leading him to a palace. In the palace, someone sat who seemed to be a bodhisattva. The bodhisattva smiled at Zhang Yudan and said, "Your dedication to goodness is commendable. Unfortunately, you do not have a long life, but fortunately, I have already pleaded with the heavenly emperor for your sake." Zhang Yudan, upon hearing this, prostrated on the ground in gratitude. The bodhisattva told him to rise, offered him a seat, and served fragrant tea. The tea tasted delightful, resembling the scent of orchids. The bodhisattva then instructed a young attendant to lead Zhang Yudan to a pond for a bath. The water in the pond appeared crystal clear, with visible fish swimming underneath. Upon entering the water, he felt it pleasantly warm. Scooping up the water to smell it, he even detected the fragrance of lotus leaves. After a while, as he walked to the deeper part of the pond, he suddenly slipped and fell into a deep pit, submerging his head underwater. Startled, he woke up, finding the dream extremely peculiar. From that day on, his body inexplicably became stronger with each passing day, and his eyes became brighter. As Zhang Yudan stroked his beard, the white whiskers fell off, fluff, fluff. After some time, even the black beard nearly disappeared, and the wrinkles on his face gradually smoothed out. Several months later, his chin became smooth and clean, and his complexion was radiant, resembling that of a 15 or 16-year-old. He developed a fondness for games and behaved like a child. Because he excessively focused on grooming and dressing, his 2 sons often advised him not to do so. After some time, Zhang Yudan's wife passed away due to old age and illness. His sons thought of finding a new wife for him in a wealthy household, but Zhang Yudan said, "Let me make a trip to Hebei first, and we can discuss remarriage when I return." Zhang Yudan calculated and realized that the agreed-upon time with Miss Lu was approaching. Therefore, he harnessed his carriage, accompanied by his servants, and set off for Hebei. Upon inquiring within Hebei, he discovered that there was indeed a household ministry minister surnamed Lu. It turned out that Minister Lu had a daughter who, from birth, could speak. As she grew older, she became intelligent and beautiful, and her parents doted on her. Despite proposals from wealthy families' descendants, the young lady always refused. Intrigued, Minister Liu and his wife questioned her, and she detailed the pre-existing agreement with Zhang Yudan before her reincarnation. The couple, after calculating their ages, laughed heartily, telling their daughter, "Silly girl, according to your description, Zhang Yudan should now be a man well into his 50s. The world has undergone immense changes. He's likely already a withered old man, devoid of hair and teeth. Even if he's still alive, he's probably a decrepit old fellow." The determined young lady insisted on her belief. Mrs. Liu, seeing her daughter so persistent, discussed with her husband. She instructed the gatekeeper not to allow any visitors seeking their daughter to enter, and they would cut off their daughter's hopes after the agreed-upon date had passed. Shortly thereafter, Zhang Yudan indeed arrived at the Liu residence, but the gatekeeper denied him entry. Helpless, he returned to his lodgings, feeling deeply disheartened. Without any alternatives, he wandered outside the city, gradually gathering information about Miss Liu. After the agreed-upon date had passed, Miss Liu thought that Zhang Yudan had betrayed their vow, causing her to cry inconsolably. Mrs. Liu tried to console her daughter, saying, "It seems that Zhang Yudan won't be coming. He is probably already dead. Even if he's alive, blaming him for breaking the oath falls on him, not on you." Miss Liu remained silent, spending her days bedridden. Minister Liu felt deeply troubled and desired to meet Zhang Yudan to understand what kind of person he was. Coincidentally, while pretending to go on an outing, he encountered Zhang Yudan outside the city. To his surprise, Zhang Yudan appeared to be a young man. Minister Liu and Zhang Yudan sat on the grass, engaging in a brief conversation. He found Zhang Yudan to be very refined and elegant. Minister Liu was pleased and invited Zhang Yudan to his home. Zhang Yudan inquired about Miss Liu. Suddenly, Minister Liu rose and asked him to sit alone for a moment, then hastily went inside to inform his daughter of the situation. Miss Liu, upon hearing her father's words, was overjoyed and got out of bed. She secretly went to see Zhang Yudan but found that he did not match her expectations. Tearfully, she ran back, complaining that her father had deceived her. Minister Liu, trying hard to explain that the young man was indeed Zhang Yudan, but Miss Liu refused to believe. She remained silent, only weeping incessantly. Minister Liu walked out of the inner room, feeling very upset. His attitude towards Zhang Yudan became somewhat impatient. Zhang Yudan inquired, "Do you have an elderly gentleman serving as the household ministry minister here?" Minister Liu casually replied, appearing disinterested and not acknowledging Zhang Yudan as a guest. Sensing Minister Liu's indifferent attitude, Zhang Yudan excused himself. Unexpectedly, Miss Liu, who had been weeping for several days, died in this state. One night, Zhang Yudan dreamed of Miss Liu coming to him. She said to Zhang Yudan, "Are you really the one who came to find me? Because I found that your age and appearance are very different from the Zhang Yudan I know, so even though we have met, we cannot recognize each other. Now, it seems we are separated by eternity again. I am now dead from sorrow and resentment. Please hurry to the land temple to summon my soul back. This way, I can be resurrected, but you must go quickly, otherwise, it will be too late. After waking up from the dream, Zhang Yudan hurried to Minister Lu's residence to inquire and learned that his daughter had indeed died 2 days ago. Zhang Yudan was overwhelmed with grief. He went to the room where her body was laid out to express condolences and shared his dream with Mr. and Mrs. Lu. After hearing his words, Minister Lu immediately went to the land temple to summon his daughter's soul. After the soul summoning ceremony, Minister Lu returned and uncovered his daughter's body, caressing it and praying for her. After a while, he heard his daughter's throat making gurgling sounds, and he saw her ruby lips suddenly open, spitting out phlegm like ice. Minister Lu moved Miss Lu to the bed, and soon, she began to groan, miraculously coming back to life. Minister Lu was overjoyed and invited Zhang Yudan out, arranging a banquet to celebrate. Minister Lu inquired about Zhang Yudan's background and, learning that he came from a wealthy family, became even happier. He then chose an auspicious day and time for Zhang Yudan to marry his daughter. After another half-month, Zhang Yudan brought his new bride home. Minister Lu personally escorted his daughter to Zhang's house and stayed there for half a year before leaving. Zhang Yudan and his wife lived together like a young newlywed couple. People who didn't know them well often mistook Zhang Yudan's son and daughter-in-law as the couple's parents. A year later, Minister Lu passed away. There was still a young boy in his family, and later, the Lu family faced false accusations and slander from local bullies, losing almost all their wealth. Zhang Yudan then took the young boy in, raising him and allowing him to establish a family in Zhang's home. Alright. That's all for today's ghostly tale. Daughter of Magistrate Lu. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Please also encourage everyone to comment and share more. We'll see you in the next episode.